"Mary, it's me," he said, his voice a ghost from the past. It had been a decade since my ex-husband and our son's wife vanished into thin air after eloping. I'd buried thoughts of them deep within, avoiding the pain they left behind. But now, unexpectedly, his voice pierced through the years. "I'm going to move into your parents' place. You're still there, aren't you?" His demand was as startling as it was unwelcome. "I'm sorry for the abruptness, but you need to vacate my home," he insisted, leaving no room for negotiation. His request caught me off guard. A decade had passed since we last exchanged words, and his sudden reappearance left me bewildered. What could he possibly want now, after all this time? And why was he asking to move into my parents' home with his unfaithful partner? "Still bunking with the folks, huh? Any new spouses since we last talked?" His inquiry dripped with a mix of curiosity and condescension. "Get out of there pronto." Anger surged within me for the first time in a decade, fueled by his audacity to mock me further. Little did he know, my living arrangements had changed drastically over the years. "Sorry, but if you're eyeing my parents' place, you're out of luck," I retorted. "Huh?" His confusion was palpable, a stark contrast to the rage boiling within me. I made it clear to him that after a decade, my determination had only grown stronger. Mary Kane, 60 years old, and still teaching part-time at a private school, I asserted. Despite being at retirement age, I persisted with my part-time work, albeit with a reduced salary. My admiration for my parents, both esteemed educators, stemmed from cherished memories of my childhood. Their influence fueled my ambition to follow in their footsteps. There was a time when I had a husband, Stephen, but that chapter ended in divorce a decade ago, and now, out of the blue, he resurfaced after all these years of estrangement. Stephen and I first crossed paths in college, back when I was just 21, juggling part-time teaching at a tutoring center with my studies in education. Stephen, a fresh face at the tutoring center, had recently stepped into the role of a part-time teacher. Despite his seniority in years, it fell upon me with my longer tenure to mentor him as directed by the center's director. As I guided him through the ropes, our camaraderie blossomed into a close friendship, which eventually bloomed into something more. 3 years of courtship later, we exchanged vows and welcomed our son, Michael, into the world. With graduation came a full-time teaching position for me, prompting my departure from the tutoring center. Our journey together as a family was just unfolding, filled with promises of a bright future. 25 years flew by, witnessing Michael find love in Sarah, whom he'd met during his studies at a design school in New York. We rejoiced in their union, hopeful for the happiness they would build together as a couple. Then, unexpectedly, Michael returned home, burdened with something he needed to share. "Mom, you're still married to Dad, right?" His question, though seemingly innocuous, stirred a mix of emotions within me as I welcomed him back, the worry beginning to settle in. "I spotted Dad strolling through Brooklyn with Sarah," Michael disclosed. "Okay," I replied, my mind racing with disbelief. According to Michael, he caught sight of Sarah and Dad arm in arm last Friday night in Brooklyn's bustling hotel district. Suspicion gripped him, prompting him to tail them discreetly. His surveillance led him to witness them disappear into a hotel. I couldn't wrap my head around it. Despite being in-laws, Stephen and Sarah shared a bond akin to that of a father and daughter. The notion of them meeting privately, let alone in a hotel, seemed unfathomable. I clung to the hope that it was a misunderstanding or a nightmare, but Michael's evidence shattered that illusion. The image on Michael's phone screen depicted a crystal-clear snapshot of Dad and Sarah entering the hotel arm in arm, unmistakably captured on a Friday night. Dad's excuse of overtime at the office crumbled in the face of this damning proof. Additionally, I couldn't shake off the memory of Stephen's frequent late arrivals home over the past few months. His explanations vary from happy hour gatherings with colleagues to sudden business trips or urgent work demands on holidays. Initially, I accepted his excuses without much skepticism, but upon closer reflection, I realized these occurrences had become more frequent lately. There seemed to be a pattern emerging, one that made me increasingly uneasy. Could these excuses be a cover for spending more time with Sarah? Requesting Michael to forward the image, I assured him I would confront his father before bidding him good night. Anticipation gnawed at me as I awaited Stephen's return home that evening. When he finally arrived, the scent of alcohol clung to him, aggravating my nerves. Summoning my courage, I approached him directly. "Stephen, Michael mentioned something today. Did you meet Sarah last Friday?" Yeah, he stammered, his response lacking conviction. We did cross paths briefly. We chatted a bit, I think. His sudden alertness and the shift in his gaze didn't escape my notice. Sensing my apprehension, he countered with a question of his own. What exactly did he tell you? He mentioned spotting you and Sarah entering a hotel in Brooklyn. I disclosed, my voice tinged with concern. As I spoke, I held up the picture Michael had given me. Stephen's reaction was immediate. His eyes widened, and he seemed to choke on his words, his gaze darting around as if seeking an escape. Finally, with a heavy sigh, he seemed to resign himself to the truth. I can't believe Michael caught us, he muttered, his tone a mixture of surprise and resignation. I let myself get carried away. It's unforgivable. My heart sank as his admission sank in. No way, Stephen, I whispered, struggling to comprehend the betrayal. Realizing there was no use in denying it any longer, Stephen began to spill everything. He confessed to starting a relationship with Sarah 6 months prior, swayed by her advances and feelings that now eclipsed those for me. My mind reeled at the revelation. Had their affair begun around the time Michael and Sarah celebrated their 3rd anniversary? Despite my trembling shock, Stephen pressed on with his confession. I want to marry Sarah, Mary. I'm filing for divorce, he declared, his words like a dagger to my already shattered heart. I objected vehemently, my mind spinning with disbelief, but Stephen remained resolute. I can't continue like this. It's over between us. The following day, Stephen failed to return home. His absence was accompanied by a notable absence of his belongings and a finalized divorce decree left on the table. Later, a distraught call from Michael revealed that Sarah had disappeared, taking the divorce papers with her. It seemed she had no intention of coming back. The shock of Stephen and Sarah's sudden elopement left me reeling. That marked the end of my marriage to Stephen a decade ago. After the divorce, we sold our shared home, and I found solace in a new residence closer to my workplace. Initially, the loneliness of my new surroundings weighed heavily on me. Yet, as I immersed myself in my work, I gradually discovered that time had mended my emotional wounds. Teaching proved to be a powerful balm for my emotional wounds, a fact I only realized with hindsight. The steadfast dedication to my fulfilling career played a pivotal role in my healing journey. Continuing to work part-time at the school even after retirement, I found purpose and joy in the daily interactions with both colleagues and students. With each passing day, the weight of Stephen and Sarah's betrayal diminished, replaced by the gratification of nurturing young minds. 10 years on, thoughts of Stephen faded into the background of my life. While my income saw a decline after transitioning to part-time teaching, it remained sufficient for me to stay engaged with the school and the students who held me in high regard. Their affection and admiration filled a void akin to that of a parent. Additionally, I found solace in Michael's resilience, witnessing him throw himself into his work with renewed vigor, having overcome the initial shock of his father's and wife's betrayal. Any semblance of peace I had managed to find shattered with the shrill ring of the phone. "Hello, Mary, it's Stephen." His voice pierced the silence, breaking a 10-year hiatus. I never anticipated hearing his voice again, and when I did, a surge of emotions overwhelmed me. "What's the purpose of this call? You didn't reach out to reminisce about the past, did you?" My words tumbled out with more force than I intended, fueled by years of pent-up resentment. After all, it was Stephen who had insisted on the divorce, leaving me to pick up the pieces. Stephen, ever composed and seemingly indifferent, countered, "Come on now, what's the point of this? Why did you even bother contacting me? You're the reason we're no longer together. I've moved on, Mary. You're not my husband anymore, and I have no interest in seeing you or hearing your voice. Let's cut to the chase, Mary. You're back at your parents', right?" His casual interruption grated on my already frayed nerves, prompting me to raise my voice once more, struggling to contain the surge of emotions stirred by his insensitive and light-hearted tone. Stephen pressed on, oblivious to my turmoil. "Sarah's expecting," he announced, the news hitting me like a freight train. "But raising a child is proving more financially challenging than we anticipated. Making ends meet has become increasingly difficult." According to his account, despite the significant age gap of 30 years, he and Sarah had shared a passionate bond. However, the dynamics shifted when Sarah fell pregnant last year, upending their lives. Both Stephen and Sarah had quit their jobs ahead of the due date, only to find themselves struggling to secure new employment. Forced to scrape by with part-time work, they faced mounting financial strain. With Sarah unable to work following the birth, Their precarious financial situation loomed large. I reached out to Michael and my parents for help, but they all refused. Stephen chuckled over the phone, his words carrying the bitter edge. Stubborn lot, aren't they? His laughter echoed in my mind, conjuring images of Stephen's stern father, determined mother, and sullen younger brother, faces I hadn't seen since their wedding 13 years ago. His family, a portrait of strictness, resolve, and seriousness, had cut ties with me after the divorce. Yet, despite our estrangement, I never imagined Stephen as the type to tolerate infidelity or betrayal within his own family. "So, what? You expect me to stay in our old house?" I said yes, but first prioritize your relationship with your wife. Your eldest daughter and first grandchild should take precedence over a mere teacher. Leave now. His abusive tone ignited a fierce anger within me. Had my memories of Stephen over the past decade been too idealized? I hadn't anticipated this callousness from him. Then a realization dawned on me. In a subdued voice, I uttered, "I'm sorry, but if you're referring to my parents' house, it's no longer ours." "What do you mean?" Stephen's confusion mirrored my own until I clarified. "Both my parents passed away, Dad 3 years ago, Mom just last year. Their house became too much for me to manage alone, so I sold it. I don't have a house to offer you, Stephen." "Huh. I won't disclose my current address, and even if I did, you're not welcome here. Don't ever show up." Stephen's voice boomed with authority. "What about my inheritance? When your parents pass, should the family home and money come to me?" I frowned, angered by Stephen's cold calculations regarding my parents' demise. It was evident he had his eyes set on not only my funds but also my parents' estate. Despite his mention of familial ties, it was too late for any semblance of trust. I had already received my rightful share from my parents' estate, including their house. My parents had made it clear they wouldn't leave a single cent to a man who shamelessly eloped with their daughter-in-law a decade ago. On the day of our divorce, they were incensed upon learning of Stephen and Sarah's betrayal from Michael and me. Their fury was justified. They had treated Stephen like their own son, only to be repaid with the gravest betrayal. Before their passing, my parents took proactive steps to secure their estate, drafting a will to ensure everything, including our family home, would pass on to me in the event of Sarah's return. 7 years after my father's demise, my mother followed, leaving me the sole inheritor of our family's estate. While reluctant to part with the cherished memories embedded in our home, I honored my parents' wishes and decided to sell it. They hoped it would shelter someone more deserving than Stephen and Sarah. Stephen's reaction was explosive upon learning of this decision. "Don't play dumb. You can't. This is absurd. They wouldn't approve." The inheritance was legally passed down to me, I countered firmly, and their forgiveness isn't something I seek, especially not from Stephen and Sarah, who've done nothing but cause turmoil. Stephen, who had idled away his days, had no business meddling in my affairs. As I gazed at my disconnected phone, I realized Stephen's true colors. Someone who would abandon others for his own gain, then lash out when denied. It was a revelation that my ex-husband, with whom I'd shared years of my life, could be so immature. As contempt simmered in my heart, another call came through, this time from Sarah. "You didn't bother to inform me about my own in-laws passing," she accused, her voice dripping with accusation. But her words failed to move me. If Sarah had truly been shocked by my parents' deaths, she would have expressed condolences or a desire to pay her respects. Instead, she immediately steered the conversation towards inheritance, legacy, and money, revealing her true priorities. Neither Sarah nor Stephen deserved a place before my parents' altar. With that thought in mind, I cut Sarah off before she could finish speaking. Later, I received a call from Michael. "Mom, did Dad and Sarah show up at your place?" he inquired. "No, they didn't, but they called, asking about the house and their inheritance," I replied. Michael's voice carried a hint of resignation. "I see. I thought they might reach out, especially after they visited me the other day." "Michael, are you okay? Did they cause any trouble?" I asked, concerned. "I'm fine, Mom, really. They just made a scene at my door. When I threatened to call the police, they took off. But I have an idea." Michael revealed his plan to me, prompting a decision to break the cycle of toxicity between Stephen and Sarah, not just for my own sake, but to safeguard my son as he embarked on a fresh chapter. A few days after putting this plan into action, I received a frantic call from Stephen. "Mary, did you have a hand in this? You're unusually quiet," he blurted out. "Don't play innocent. What's going on?" I demanded. They're on their way to our place, Stephen disclosed. They? Who? I pressed for clarification. Stephen explained that 7 women were en route to their apartment, his unfaithful partners. It appeared he'd been carrying on affairs with 7 other women, in addition to Sarah. Unaware of Stephen's infidelities with 7 other women, Sarah found herself caught off guard by the sudden chaos. As the women erupted in anger, Stephen's frustration grew, directed now at Sarah. The revelation of multiple affairs left me dumbfounded. I knew it was you. How did you uncover my secret? Stephen demanded. I wonder, I retorted, considering I have nothing left after my ex-husband abandoned me for another woman 10 years ago. What? Stephen's shock was palpable. Turning the conversation around, Stephen unleashed a torrent of expletives over the phone, but his outburst failed to faze me in the slightest. As Sarah's distress escalated during our conversation, she hastily packed her belongings, unleashing a heated argument with Stephen, oblivious to my presence on the line. It was a chaotic scene unfolding before my ears, reminding me of the saying, "Things spiral out of control." With a heavy heart, I directed my final words to my ex-husband, though they may have fallen on deaf ears. Farewell, Stephen. Never darken my doorstep or our son's life again. With that, I ended the call. Little did Stephen know, the tumult sparked by the women he had been unfaithful with was the very plan Michael had alluded to. After Stephen and Sarah's tumultuous visit to Michael's home, where they were swiftly turned away, he wasted no time in enlisting the services of a professional detective agency to delve deeper into their affairs. As it turned out, Stephen's infidelity with Sarah had escalated into affairs with 7 other women, 3 of whom were married. Michael promptly relayed this information to me, along with Stephen and Sarah's current address, the very apartment uncovered by the detective agency. With this knowledge in hand, Michael and I coordinated a plan. We informed all 7 women of Stephen and Sarah's whereabouts and directed them to confront the couple simultaneously. The resulting chaos at Stephen and Sarah's apartment grew so intense that law enforcement had to intervene, dispatching police to the scene. Sarah ended her relationship with Stephen, and he found himself facing lawsuits from 3 aggrieved husbands, each demanding alimony payments exceeding 3 figures. Losing Sarah, his home, and his financial stability, Stephen now lives as a homeless individual in a park, struggling to make ends meet. A colleague spotted him seeking assistance at a soup kitchen. Meanwhile, Sarah, facing her own financial burdens, was hit with alimony demands surpassing 3 figures. Forced to borrow money to cover her expenses, she turned to a black market lender, a decision that would soon prove ominous. Shortly after securing the loan, she was forcibly abducted by intimidating individuals in a car, and her whereabouts remain unknown. 10 years have passed, and I've finally reached a final resolution with Stephen. Once again, I've returned to the tranquility of my life. While I remain single, contentment fills me as I immerse myself in the vibrant atmosphere of school. That alone is sufficient for me. In time, Michael found love with a woman who has a child of her own. They are now dating with the intention of marriage. My heart swells with hope that Michael, too, will discover a newfound joy and purpose in life.
I was happy and making good money. You owe $30,000. I was shocked when my credit card company called me on the phone. What? There's no card? After that, I stopped the payment right away. My husband called me a million times while he was away. I got it all and did something about it. I am 29 years old, and my name is Haley. I work for a company now as a boss. Christopher is my husband. We met in college and are the same age. This year marks the 3rd year that we've been married. It seems like a lot of people around me quit their jobs when they got married, but I'm still writing this. I earn more money than my husband. We don't talk about it, but I worry about our future when my husband's only source of income is gone. I'm sure he does too. My husband, on the other hand, is not a pimp. We each have our own pocket, and we split the cost of living 50-50. I can spend the rest of the money however I want. This meant that I wasn't too unhappy with the fact that we were working together and that our lives were going well. Oh, I guess I spent a little too much this month too. I thought as I looked at the debit notice email on the train ride home. That being said, I should look again to see if any services I haven't used in a while are still set up. That's what I thought as I closed the email. That time will probably never come. I couldn't remember the password to get to the page where I could see my credit card bills. It's tough to find the drive. I can't get through to the help center. On the world's end, why should people who are working call the call center when it's only open from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m., Monday through Friday? There's no doubt that the lines are long at lunchtime. I'm still signed up for a service, though, so I should be okay. In other words, the call center will call you if the monthly amount is more than $10,000. You're not wrong when you say that this confidence that everything will be okay has made me less likely to call the call center. But shopping online takes my mind off of work worries. When I opened the package and saw the package inside, I felt better, but only for a short time. I'm at home. As soon as I opened the door to the living room, my mood went from good to bad. There were socks on the ground and empty cans on the table. There was a phone and a sweater on the couch. No, is that my husband in a sweatshirt? Yes, my husband doesn't clean the house at all when he gets home. Instead, he is purposely destroying the house. I point my phone at the couch and say, "Hey, socks and empty cans." This is what I get. It's just a small thing to throw away and wash. Don't be so mad. You might do it. You could do it if you get home early. Why don't you clean the house or make me dinner? He said the next thing when I said S and say, I'm so tired when I get home. I also have to deal with the store's lunch bag. I'm tired too. I said with a shrug, if you don't clean the house, you should work and do the work or the chores, whichever you like better. Oh, please be quiet. I understand. And the fact that he said it twice showed that he wasn't feeling it. I gave my husband a mean look. My husband looked at his phone the whole time he left the living room and didn't even notice how I felt. It's not fair that I do more chores and work than he does. Is that a bad thought? I don't think so. But I'm not sure if I went too far. Because my husband is sometimes crazy, I was afraid he would get stubborn and make the house even messier. But contrary to what I thought, what I said that day seems to have made a difference. Yes, my husband has been coming home late ever since, even on days when I got home before him. He began to show up. It looks like he was working extra hours. He must have changed his mind. Because I was so happy, I worked harder than ever on my tasks. My husband is busy, so I have to clean the house. I didn't think about the fact that my husband was doing that at the time. Yes, it's Christopher's room. He hasn't cleaned it in a while. And that day, I got home before my husband did. It had been a while since I had been in his room. As expected, there were a lot of empty bottles and cans lying around. Throw this stuff away. Oh, even on the bed. Then I looked at the bed and thought, what is this? There was a package wrapped in gift wrap. That bag was my favorite brand. I had to shine a light on it because I couldn't see it well. Oh, could it be my birthday present? Yes, my birthday was the following week, even though it hurt. I chose to act like I hadn't seen the package and leave it alone. But on my long-awaited birthday, the box never showed up. Hey, do you know what day it is today? Oh, it's your birthday, right? Yes. Did you forget? No, I remember, she said. Aren't you happy about something? Didn't I give it to you last year? What did you do? You know, you're old enough to be honored. My husband spit that out without a care in the world and went to his room. Then what do you mean? It was that box that made me feel uneasy from that day on. Right then, something took place. My husband said all of a sudden, this is it. I'm going on a work trip to another country next week. What? A business trip to another country? Had to raise my voice. That's not how I remember your business being. You've never been on a business trip outside of the United States, let alone within the country, have you? Then my husband said, they gave me this assignment because I've been doing well and deserve it. Oh, uni? He told me I could believe him if I hadn't seen the box, but I couldn't accept what my husband said at that time. I was scared to go into his room on the day of his business trip after seeing him off early in the morning. I then checked under the bed. There wasn't a package there. I was sure. This isn't a business trip abroad, right? I was able to move my heavy body to work with this feeling in my heart. I was still not in a fit state to do any work though. Several times, my hand stopped. I kept thinking about my phone and what my husband had said and done. Hey, are you okay? What? You look like your mind is not in your body today. I asked. Oh, yeah. I just didn't get enough sleep. As I made this light-hearted excuse, my phone started shaking. On the screen, a strange number was shown. It's not often that I answer a call from a number I don't know, but I had a bad feeling about this one, and did. I'm sorry, I need to go for a while. Yes, ma'am. I took the phone outside and hit the answer button. It was the credit card company's call center. I kept telling myself, oh no, it's not my husband, and oh well. I need to give out my password and a lot of other things were all going through my mind at the same time. What the heck was the job requirement? The person who answered the phone gave me the answer right then and there. This is our debt protection service calling because you have settled more than $10,000. $10,000. I was shocked by what I heard, but what the operator said next made me hold my breath even more. Yes, it cost $30,000, I said. That's not possible. Wait a second. I quickly went back to work and looked in my wallet. It was no longer there. That's the card I meant to put there, she said. I put my phone back in my ear. Pardon me, may I halt that transaction? Yes. I think it's still true, so you can stop it. Thank goodness. It made me feel a little better. No, that's not the end of it. I kept going. And please take care of the stolen card. Right now, I don't have my card with me. I said, yes, sir, I will do it right away. Even though I didn't understand, I did what the operator asked and was able to finish the process. I then hung up the phone. The heartbeat in my chest didn't stop for a while after I took the phone call. I'm sorry, I'm not ready to talk. I'm not able to work. I'm sorry, but I need to go. Early, it seems my credit card was stolen and almost misused, and I've got a lot of things to deal with. I got off track and called my boss. I had a lot of worry at work, and my boss was okay with me leaving for the day. I grabbed the train quickly, and when I looked at my phone, I saw that my husband had called me a million times. It was like he was saying he was the bad guy. I ran home quickly. I quickly took off my shoes, set down my bag, and went to my husband's room. It was on his desk, so I opened it up and looked at the search history. The first thing on the list that caught my eye was a luxury cruise and a travel plan for two. I wasn't asked to go to that event. I looked at the destination and was sure it was the work trip my husband had talked about. He could no longer call it a work trip. I looked through my old emails. That's it. The name of the person is written there. Mario. What the heck is this woman? I was going to hit the keyboard out of anger, but instead I looked at what I thought was proof in a rough way. My phone wouldn't stop ringing while I checked. Oh my God, shut up. Oh yes, and while I'm at it, I'll use the password I got from the call center earlier to check my credit card usage history. I went to my page and looked through my records of uses. What is it? As I scrolled through, my mouth kept getting wider and wider. I forgot about a payment. After that, the money was paid for that brand of bag. Yes, it all made sense. In short, Christopher paid off his mistress Rio with my credit card and even took a trip abroad that he said was for work. Oh no, I don't want to boo. Boo. After several calls, I finally picked up the phone with all my might. What? You finally picked up after calling over and over. The credit card doesn't work. When my husband spoke, he was already talking about the card. Whose? When I asked him directly, he mumbled, "You ask whose?" "Yes, but I don't have a credit card." "That is, you took my credit card, right?" My husband got antsy while I worked. No, that's not theft. I took it from someone. When you're abroad, it's easier to use than cash. When I'm on work trips, I use it for many things. Work trips. That's correct. What if it gets in the way of my work? It was meant to look like my husband was on a work trip, but I told him what I meant. What about a luxury cruise? What? Why do you want to know that? Well, that's business entertainment. A fun time for Rio? Why do you need to talk about Rio? Was she happy with the designer bag? What are you going to say? Did you just call Rio in a nice way? Do you really want to act like you don't know her? What? What do you want to say? I understand everything. I know that you tried to spend $30,000 on a luxury cruise and a vacation package for couples. I also know that you have been using my credit card to pay Rio a lot of money. My husband said twice, as if he wanted to start over. I understand. After I told him what I said. I'm sorry I cheated. I'm sorry, but I can't go home until you activate the credit card. Why are you acting that way? Do you think it will go away if you just say sorry and admit it? And friend, please spend the rest of your life at your resort. My husband was about to say something, but I hung up the phone instead. The phone started booing right away and kept booing. I turned off the call because it was too loud and making me crazy. Finally, the email said that the return trip would be at noon 3 days later. I called the company right away and decided that I would finish everything in 3 days. As a first step, I had to get everything out of the house. It was the second day that I told my in-laws what happened. Took the divorce papers and my husband's computer with me. When my in-laws saw my story and all the proof, they were angry. They said they were sorry and promised to get a divorce, pay me $113,000 in alimony, and return the money he had spent. Then, in no time, it was time for my husband to go back to Japan. I got a call early that evening from my in-laws telling me that our divorce papers had been received safely. To my surprise, my ex-husband had only taken the credit card and not any other money. The woman had given him $30,000 instead. As you might expect, she was very angry. She changed her ticket without permission before the return date and went back to Japan before him. I asked myself why she didn't just take the plane ticket and visa from my ex-husband and leave for Japan. While I was listening to the story, I thought about how when my ex-husband got back to Japan, my things were gone from my house and my phone wouldn't connect. So he ran to my in-laws' house. He got in a lot of trouble there and had to write divorce papers. In other news, the woman is now also asking for her $30,000 back, and the ex-husband is rolling his eyes up into his head. After he paid them back once, they made him live like a junior high school student with a 20-hour curfew while they watched over him until he paid the whole amount back. I finally made a $9,000 claim against the cheating wife after getting information from my in-laws about what had happened and how to reach them. This ended the problem. When I went back to work the next day, many of my bosses and coworkers were worried and called me. "Hey, are you okay? I'll listen to the story if it's okay with you. Say thank you. I'm thankful to work for such a friendly company. Every once in a while, I'll buy you a drink. Let's get a drink. It's really just a game of whining. Thanks a lot." As I drank the beer, I poured all of the past into the center of my mind. I love it. From now on, it looks like only good things will happen. Yes, that's right. Haley. My name is Nancy. Thanks for reading. I don't know much about the world outside. I learned about it from watching TV as a child. It showed me animals that lived in the wild, scenery I had never seen before, and the daily lives of people who spoke different languages. I was brave enough to study abroad while I was in college because I wanted to get a closer look at this strange world. That's where I found the unknown world I was looking for. People's lives were going well, even though they spoke a different language. There were many animals and beautiful scenery to see. I want other people to feel this wonder too, so I thought I had a job at a tour agency. I was in charge of planning tours for the group I worked for. I was able to handle everything from site checks to negotiations thanks to what I learned while studying abroad. Even though my life was very busy, and forget about my personal life. Daniel and I got married a few years ago. We met at work. Work and family life were going well for me until something came up. It was with Barbara, my wife's mom. Barbara is a housewife who thinks that after getting married, women should stay at home. I don't disagree with her point of view, but I believe that thought is out of date. Even though I told her that, she said, "Isn't it a woman's job to take care of Daniel? In what way does that bother you?" "What though? What are you saying as Daniel's wife?" "No." In the end, Barbara didn't get that I didn't want her to tell me what to think. I couldn't keep living with Barbara like this, so I told Daniel he should buy a house. The way people see us might change after we buy a house. Daniel decided to buy a house right away after hearing that. That's how I didn't have to live with Barbara. But the story didn't end there. Barbara began to come over more often after we bought the house. She would come over every weekend and make noise with Daniel. She didn't care for her husband, Anthony, of course. "Barbara, can I leave Anthony alone? He's not a kid. He can handle it. Wasn't it a woman's job to take care of her husband?" I wanted to answer, but I thought it would start a fight, so I didn't. Then Barbara, who had been making a lot of noise with Daniel, started talking to someone else. I forgot to say that next week I'm going on a trip. Be careful, please. "What do you mean, Nancy? You're also coming." But it's so sudden." "Are you not going to go on the trip with the family as Daniel's wife?" "But there's also work to do. We're going on vacation with our family. Aren't our in-laws family to you?" "That's not what I mean." "Then make it happen." Yes. Even though I couldn't answer, that was still the best part. When Barbara saw that I was upset, she said in a mean voice, and booked the hotel. I should always brag about working at a travel agency, right? I'm not bragging, so you can do it, right? Where do we want to go? England? London? Where is London? I went to school abroad. I still know a lot of people there. It might be difficult for other countries or regions, but maybe I can manage London. All right, I'll try. I already have my plane tickets, so all you have to do is book the room. You booked the flight, but not the hotel. I bought the tickets. I got them. I bought first-class tickets with my card points. Barbara made a face. From her happiness, it looked like it was true. Then I saw stacks of brand-name items on the couch. I see. Yes, I get it. When Daniel heard first class, he leaned in. Being first class. Are you sure, Mom? Yes, it's a first-class trip to another country. Very cool. We're leaving at 9:30 p.m., so you have time to work until the very end. Barbara's smile was still there. It seemed strange, but there's no reason to lie about going on vacation. But it's so sudden. I need to book the hotel properly or she'll be mad. It might not be easy to find a room. After giving it some thought, I chose to get a hotel recommendation from people I knew when I studied abroad. Can you do it at Nancy's request? I asked over the phone. Sure. There are 2 rooms for 4 people. Thank you. With that, I was able to book the room. Then I forgot to take the day off for the trip because I had to go so quickly. That's why I worked. Barb told me to meet her at the airport at 6 p.m., so I should be able to make it if I finish work soon. That's what I thought when Barbara called all of a sudden. Hello, Barbara. Nancy, are you done with work? I'm just leaving the office now, so I'll be at the airport after 6 o'clock p.m. Oh, that's too bad. Huh. Well, we're actually leaving at 6 o'clock p.m. Oh, no way. I ran back to my desk quickly. I used my computer to look up the trip times. Come on, London. That flight I heard about at 9:30 p.m., I found it. But there was also one that left after 6 o'clock p.m. Could it be this flight after 6 p.m.? Yes. So the family is going without you. What about Anthony if you leave me behind? You should really be sick. I was very angry. How could she have planned so well to leave me out? Not forgivable. Barbara would benefit from seeing how angry I am, though. Even though it meant putting on a brave face, I had to hide how I felt. Barb, I clenched my teeth and told her I booked the hotel, so Daniel knows the name of the hotel. Now there's nothing you can do. Barb laughed on the other end of the line. I was angry, so I told them, go without me. I like that better. Our family doesn't need a wife like you. Not useful. How do you mean? Do you not know? Because of work, you don't do your chores. Daniel is not happy. I do have a lot of work to do, but I've never skipped doing my housework. Why would Daniel be upset? Can I speak to Daniel? Sure. Nancy wants to talk. Daniel's voice came after Barbara's mocking one. Hi there. What's up, Nancy? Daniel, what do you mean you're upset with me? Just that you're always at work and neglecting me. Do you mean neglect? I clean, cook, and do laundry. You think you're taking care of everything yourself, right? Not true. Don't you think you should treat me better? Listen to me and do things for me. I know that a wife who helps her husband is appreciated. The husband likes it, but that's not the only thing that makes a marriage work. I never say bad things about Daniel in public. I'd only praise him, not when there are only two of us. But we need to say what we think when we're by ourselves. If I didn't, our relationship would end, and Daniel would have me as his helper. Still, he kept whining about me. So you think you can act all high and mighty because you earn more? Not at all. In any case, that bothers me. You're leaving me behind for that. Sure, think of it as stress release. Don't worry. I'll bring you a small gift. That's not the point. It was clear that Daniel didn't care about me. I have my own plans, if that's how things are. Okay, have fun on the trip. That's fine. Bye. Daniel was happy when he hung up. I was furious. Because Daniel and Barbara were so selfish, I couldn't stand them. Enjoy your trip without me, but be ready for anything. I won't forgive you, even if you cry and say sorry when you come back. I quickly left the office with my cell phone. Hi there, my name is Nancy. Are you available? I need to talk about which hotel I booked. I had a lot of time now that the trip was over. I'll take care of everything now. I ran around with that drive. After that, I got home that night, tired. The phone rang right then. Hello, Nancy. What were you thinking? Barb was on the other end of the line, and she sounded very angry. I was lying when I knew the reason. Barbara, how is the trip going for you? That's not what we need right now. The hotel won't let us check in. Did you have a reservation? You made the reservation, didn't you? I canceled it because I wasn't going. Huh? Then what? Where are we going to stay tonight? I don't know, Nancy. The angry voice of Barbara could be heard, but she is in London. It's not scary at all that she's mad on the phone. That's tough, not having a room while you're away. You could have anything happen. Huh? You should know that it's not the best place. Wait. Help me. Barbara sounded scared, and then there was a faint noise in the background. There's an empty room. Anthony is trying to make it possible for us to stay there. Daniel's voice was there. Is that true, Daniel? It looks like it'll be fine, you see. Nancy knew about that. The tone of Barbara's voice changed from sad to happy, as if her tears earlier were not real. I heard you, Nancy. I feel bad for you. It didn't go as planned. Because I canceled, the room was free. All of this was part of my plan though. I had another goal in mind. I was glad there was a spot open. I thought you'd be proud that they canceled our hotel reservation. Didn't you? No, not really. Don't you feel frustrated? If you're mad, you can say so. I just changed my mind and won't be going. Trying to look strong. What a shame. This is typical of Daniel's useless wife. Barbara let out a loud laugh. Then she kept talking about how beautiful the place was and how good the food was, among the other things. I finally got tired of listening and quietly hung up the phone. It's likely she didn't even notice. That thought made me smile a little. Anyway, we only have a few more days to go. I got ready and ate dinner. After a few days, Barbara called me again as I was on my way back from somewhere to the station. Hey Nancy, how are you? What the heck is going on? Not once more. What is wrong with this hotel? What are you talking about? Barbara's story. In short, Anthony was able to get them to stay in the room I had to cancel because of his negotiation skills. The talks that Anthony was having went smoothly. The girls would stay in a room that was left open. The plan was for them to stay for 4 days and check out today, but the hotel charged them £8,000 for their stay. Then what's the matter? It costs £2,000 a night, right? Huh, you'd pay about $2,500 a night for that. It's silly. Does that mean it's for 2 rooms? That's about $1,200 per room. Yes, you did tell Daniel it was $300 per room per night. That means it should be $600 for 2 rooms. Why does it cost 4 times as much? Wow. I was shocked. They stayed there without even seeing how much the rooms cost. Well, I knew this was going to happen, so I set it up that way. Anyway, Barbara's noise on the phone must be annoying other people. I need to make her feel better. Hey Nancy, can you hear me? Nancy, Barbara, can you be a bit quieter? What made you lie? She's good at blaming others without taking a look at herself. I started to explain to Barbara when I got angry. The $300 rate was because I booked the room. Huh. I asked a friend who runs a hotel because it was very last minute. Someone you know. Yes, a room at their hotel costs about $600 for 2 people. Why then $11,200? That price gets you a really nice room. A friend helped me out. Since there were no other rooms available, they set up a nicer one. So, is this the regular price? Barbara is sounding tense. When Barbara told me there wasn't enough time for the trip, I told my friend that any room would do. The only available room was a pricey suite. My friend was kind and gave me a low price. I didn't ask Barbara to leave me behind. I told my friend right away what was going on and got the room canceled. While I couldn't leave Barbara and the others without a place to stay, I did offer to do so at the normal rate if they came. Since Daniel had told Barbara about the hotel, I knew she wouldn't check the price, and I was right. You knew you were supposed to say that. It won't help to yell. Make sure you pay. Nancy, we're not going to pay. You do. But if you don't pay, you'll be arrested. Pinned up. Of course, problems overseas can be a mess. Do you agree with that? Barbara didn't seem to know what to say. Barbara yelled, "Don't mess with me," just as I was hanging up the phone because I thought I had won. This will make you feel bad when I get back. That's fine, but we're strangers now, right? Huh? Why? Well, you said it was a trip with your family. Since I'm not there, I'm not family, right? That's different. Anthony's voice came over the phone before she could finish. Why are you shouting so loudly? Do not talk. It is embarrassing. Anthony, I took advantage of the chance and called out to him. He saw it and replied, "Nancy, are you all right? How is your cold?" I never had a cold in the first place. What? Give it to me. Anthony took Barbara's phone. It looked like his voice got stronger. Nancy, can you explain everything? I can, actually. From the start, I told him everything. His voice got softer over time. I see. That's why you didn't show up. I am sorry. I wanted to go. Don't worry, Nancy. You're not to blame. Daniel and Barbara are there. Anne Whitver could be heard from far away. Anthony's anger seemed to scare Barbara and Daniel. When I thought about this, an idea came to me. Should I explain to Anthony what Barbara has been up to? I believed that. This is why I turned to Anthony. Anthony, can I tell you something? What is it? Barbara comes to our house almost every weekend. I know that. And when she throws away receipts at our place, there are piles of them. What receipts for brand goods? It's fine to buy a lot, but please dispose of the receipts at your place. Barbara wasn't just making a lot of noise at our house. She was also buying brand name items and throwing away the papers to hide them for Anthony. She thought this way she wouldn't get caught. Of course, I'm a witness, so it's pointless. Anthony didn't seem to know, though. That's interesting to know. Also, tell her to stop talking badly about you at our house. She talks about me too. Yes, she does say you don't make much money. Daniel also says that he is a bad dad. I think. Anything else? Well, I finally let out all of my anger on Anthony. Even though some of it wasn't directly about Anthony, he listened quietly and then said sorry to me at the end. Sorry about that. I get it now. Understand what? Why Barbara didn't want to use her card to pay for the hotel. Maybe, probably because the cost was much higher than she expected, close to her credit limit. Sorry about that. That voice was Barbara. It's not okay that you waste so much money. Barbara, I want to get a divorce. Please, don't do that. After Anthony's yelling, Barbara's sad voice came next. He yelled at Daniel too. Daniel, why don't you defend your wife? That's, please stop coming to my house. Just think about this. Yes, sir. Daniel seemed incredibly obedient. He probably didn't think it was a big deal that his parents kicked him out of the house. That's when I dealt the last blow. So, Daniel, it looks like you're going to live alone now, huh? What do you mean? At that moment, Daniel's voice grew louder. He must have taken the phone. I moved my phone out of the way and told him what was going on. Daniel, I want a divorce. A split up. Are you kidding me? No, I mean it. The house is already gone. You bought it? Why do you not tell me about that? That's our home. No, that's my house. But I also had to pay the bills. You weren't, I said. How do you mean? Every month, I gave you some of my pay. That was for living costs. I paid the payment myself because a few hundred wasn't enough. With my name on the house, there was no reason to be upset. I decided to get a divorce from Daniel because of this event. I sold the house that made me remember bad times when I lived with him. That means you'll be living by yourself. Wait, give it some thought. No, it is set. When I find a place, I'll get in touch with you. After that, I'll send you the written notice. Notice from the government. Of course, I'll be asking for money in a split. Await my arrival. I didn't care that Daniel was crying on the other end. The call ended. After that, Daniel and I got a divorce after talking about it. Anthony actually split up with Barbara too. Barbara didn't get any money in the split because she wasted money, so she was left on her own. I was just kicked out of the room. Daniel was almost broke because he had spent all of his money on useless things, except for the few $100s he gave me every month. He now lives in a rundown flat and takes the bus to work. But Daniel might be doing better than Barbara. With no money or a place to live, Barbara had to get a live-in job. Daniel's place was too small for her. From morning to night, she works hard. It's going well for me. Since I'm single, I have more time on my hands and can handle calls from abroad. A lot of people at work depend on me now, and there have even been rumors of a raise to department head. I'm busy planning new tour packages while I fly around the world today.